information, shall we start? Because we have good 35, 36 participants in and lot many will join gradually. So do we start?
Yes, perfect. Go ahead.
Thank you. Right. So good evening, people. I, Shefali Sangal, on behalf of Young Minds and Young Entrepreneurs Network, welcome you all to this special evening. Our purpose, as always, is to connect people from all across the country so that no one feels missed out during this time. So today we have people from Pune, Gujarat, Delhi, Bangalore, Mumbai, Chennai, and many parts of the country. We are hosting our 41st webinar today, and I'm glad that it is on my favorite subject, how to do effective sales. And it becomes very important, sometimes when we need to know how do we e-connect our customer, how do we stay connected with our customer. So today we have with us Mr. Sumit Haku, Vice President Sales, Electro Material Handling Systems Private Limited. Sumit brings with him 20 plus years of rich industry experience, both at national and international level. He has worked with organizations like Sperex Marshall, Dana Spicer, and Forbes Marshall. A highlighting fact about him is he brings transformation in the organization. He does mentoring, coaching, selling, whatever is required to align with the organization goals. I think any organization looks for these kind of qualities in a leader when they, hire in their organizations. So there's no reason that any organization will not grow or the targets will not meet when we have great leaders like him. So welcome Sumit to this special evening, and we would love to hear from you now.
Well, thanks a lot, Shafali, for having me here for this webinar. As I said, a lot of things about COVID-19 have been people are talking about, a lot of negativity. It's more on that part. But I think the positive part of COVID-19 is that it's got people together. We have learned to respect our environment. We have learned to show gratitude to people who are actually doing their duty towards society, towards the country. And at the same time, I see that sense of connectivity. People are actually getting together. I've been actually connecting with many people, including you recently, and many of my old friends whom I've never really, talked for a while. So I think, yes, while we are talking about sailing and selling through COVID-19, I wanted to touch upon these aspects and how these aspects are going to really be important, especially when in this situation selling is going to be different. Yeah, so we are all going through a very tough times of pandemic uh, situation, COVID-19, and I do recognize that these are pretty crazy times, for all of us. Yeah, and not anyone was actually prepared to handle this pandemic, especially the way it all started, and the way it gradually, started spreading all across the globe. We heard it starting with China and eventually Italy. A lot of bad news that we heard in the news, and then it spread all across, including our country. So this definitely is not a good case scenario. Yeah. So, and I must tell you today that I'm taking this session from the comfort of my bedroom. Yeah, and I'm sure all of you are also joining this webinar from your own homes while we are still under that so-called partial lockdown. And let's see how things unturn. I don't have an answer, and I'm sure many of you who have joined this webinar don't have a really clear answer as to when this situation is going to really get off and we get back to normal. Okay, so let me start my session today by referring to one of my favorite author and a business coach, Stephen Covey. I'm sure many of you would have heard about his famous book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Salespeople. It's about highly effective people. Okay, I'm coming back to sales again because many of you are in sales. So, in this global pandemic situation, I refer to this particular thought of this business coach and a well-known author, Stephen Covey. So he talked about this particular concept of circle of concern and circle of influence. I don't know how many people in the audience have come across this particular concept, but I must tell you, this particular concept is very, very apt, especially in a situation like this. the COVID-19 situation. Now, let me explain what this concept says. Now, when we talk about the circle of concern or the circle of influence, how is it related to this particular situation that we are in? Now, let me give you some insight. So, when we say circle of concern, we are talking about the factors that we have absolutely no control, right? So, factors like the virus, the coronavirus, and nobody has a control. Like, I cannot predict when this virus is going to get away. I have no idea, and I'm sure nobody in the audience has an idea, and nobody in the world has an idea how it came and when is it really getting over. So absolutely no control. So nobody has a control on the news. We hear a lot of things about the pandemic. Yeah. So, but do we have any control on that? Absolutely no. We have no control on the decisions taken by the government, whether it's closing the schools, colleges, and many of the institutions, or for that matter, a complete lockdown that we were in. Do we have any control? No. We also don't have any control about the reactions of the so-called governments. When I say governments, I'm not referring to just the Indian government, but governments across the whole globe. And we also don't have any control of some of the top people. Like, do I have, or does anyone have a control on what Trump says? Yeah, just on a lighter note. So what I'm trying to say is that there are certain things or the factors where we have absolutely no control. So do not go into really fixing those up. Do not fixate on what you cannot really control, because you absolutely have no control. So those are the things which really fall in the circle of concern, the factors where we have absolutely no control. And pandemic is absolutely the situation where we have no control. Yeah. So then what's the circle of influence? We talked about the circle of concern. Now we're talking about the circle of influence. Now, when you say the circle of influence, we are talking about the factors where we have direct control. Yeah. If you take, for example, anybody, yeah, a person like me, or for that matter, anybody in the audience, do you have a control on your mood when you have to speak something? I think yes, we have full control on ourselves, right? Uh, because of those moods, we have a control on the reaction, because the mood leads to the reaction, right? So that's nothing but your own behavior, and behavior finally leads to the actions. So you want to set up a good mood for yourself, you would react accordingly, and those reactions will set up the actions or the decisions. So which is something in our control, right? So what I'm trying to say is that the circle of influence is very, very important in life, especially in a scenario where we're all going through negativity. There's a lot of gloom and doom in the market. We keep hearing a lot of negative things where we don't have any control, but we have definitely some control on ourselves. And this is applicable across the board, not just on salespeople, or some people in the design, some people on the social service, NGOs, the government. It's applicable to all. So typically for salespeople, especially in a situation like this, we need to be really taking care of the circle of influence. We need to have a better control on our the moods. We need to have a better control on the way we behave and the actions that we take. Yeah, I'm going to get into this particular topic a little later with some specific examples how salespeople, sales professionals can actually apply this concept in a day-to-day life to be able to really change. Because if you look at the current scenario, what is required is to adapt to the new selling model, right? So to be able to adapt to the new selling model, we need to have a full control on the circle of influence. So let's park this particular concept here, and let's get into the next slide, which is definitely my favorite, because if you look at the scenario before COVID-19, the situation that we were in, I'm sure many of my friends on this particular call today would really appreciate the fact that those were the happy times. Yeah, a salesperson, the best thing for a salesperson to be out in the field. Yeah, they carry their brands on their shoulders with a lot of courage, with a lot of uh, happiness. Yeah, And that's quite apparent in the body language of the sales guys. When he goes out in the field, he's free, he moves out, meets the clients, whether it's a new client or existing client. He portrays the brand in front of the customer, and that reflects in the business, right? So this particular slide, as you can see, the first part clearly shows how happy times we were in before COVID-19, where all of us, were out in the field, a lot of crowd around. We used to love traveling, going out and meeting clients. And finally, the purpose of our the purpose of our visits in the field was to close the deal, get the contracts, get the orders, get the business. And that's what was happening just before COVID situation. Now, this brings me to a simple concept here. I wanted to tell you what is the difference between sales and selling. Yeah. So when you talk about sales, I'm trying to tell you the results. That's the ultimate outcome. Yeah. While as when we talk about the selling is nothing but a practice. Yeah. These are the practices which sales guys, sales people follow. And ultimately, these practices lead to sales, right? So, to be able to bring results, to be able to bring sales, it's important to follow the right practice. It's important to follow the right selling principles. That's what we've been doing in the past when we never had this COVID situation before. Happy times, yeah, the business was good for all, except for few so-called sectors where there was a lot of negativity. I'm not saying that all the sectors were flourishing, but definitely it wasn't as bad as we are uh, right now. So, and also remember, when you're in a strong economy conditions, things are pretty good everywhere. Sales just happens. I'm not underestimating here the efforts taken by the sales guys in a good economy condition. What I'm trying to say is that when the economy is good, the sales just happen because you follow the steps, and customers have the business to queue, right? So the customer gives you say an inquiry or shows an interest to buy, and that's where the sales process starts. So you go on meeting the client, understand the requirement, and it's pretty much so for each and every industry. Where you talk about a B2B industry, where you have a one-on-one interaction with the client, understanding the requirements, you make the proposals and have discussions with the client and arrive at an agreement, get the order. Yeah. So, and all of this happens, let me tell you, with or without any marketing supporting elements when economy is good. Yeah. But in a crisis like this, when we have a pandemic situation, projects are getting stalled. Not many people are ready to invest. I'm sure many of you know we have the highest project deficit happening in the country. Yeah. And especially in the large capital goods business, where it's a capex driven business, things are getting stalled. Not many people are really happy to look at taking money out of their pockets and investing in so-called large capex projects. So definitely in a crisis situation like COVID, sales will be different. Getting results will be difficult. You need to be really doing a digging out model. So when I'm saying digging out model, I mean to say, you need to be really taking out business from a client. It's not the customer who's having a requirement. He would probably give you a call. Hey, where are you? I have this requirement. Would you like to see me and discuss? Those things are not going to happen. So the model of business is going to shift, and we need to be adopting to this digging out business or taking out business model, right? And very important that sales guys need to be reaching out to customers to be really able to dig out business. Yeah. So that would mean that, the efforts to be taken by the sales guys have to really surge like anything. You need to be doing much more sales effort for getting the business. It's going to be tough. Remember this. Yeah. But at the same time, I would say it's very important, while we are talking about COVID like situation, you have the lockdown, the entire country was under lockdown, and we still are in partial lockdown. Industries are not really operating at full scale. Yeah. And people are not going to invest. Projects are going to be really go down. So in a scenario like this, I think we need to see how we really scale up our efforts as salespeople, reach out to clients, understand where business lies. Yeah, we need to find out the ways, very, very important. We need to find out the ways to be able to reach out to customers where they are. Now, I tell you, it's very interesting, in a situation like this, when you have a lockdown, all the people are not really able to go to the offices, work from home scenario. I think almost everyone is online. Yeah, people are trying to do uh, work from home. They're trying to work around on the internet, trying to really grab what's happening on COVID, whether it's a news or articles, and try and find out when do we get the vaccine. Yeah, so there are people are online. Yeah, people are also trying to connect with people, so they will be available on the social media, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, professional network. So it's very important to understand where customers are spending their times and trying to reach out to them, connecting with them, you know, being empathetic to them, talking to them, understanding how they're doing. Yeah. So I think this is the time where our approach has to be different. Rather than just looking at a business automatically will happen if you really surge your efforts. Yeah. If you increase your sales effort towards customer. Yeah. Now, while we're talking a lot about negativity, COVID-19, lockdown situation and all, I must tell you that it's a myth that no one is buying. Yeah. Some industries definitely are doing well. In spite of all the lockdown, I'm sure many of you will acknowledge the fact that the industries like pharmaceutical, the beverage industry, breweries, dairy, and you have a lot of associated industries like packaging industry, paper industry, and many such support industries were working. And in fact, some of these industries have really declared that they're really going to scale up, to be able to meet the requirements, the growing requirements. Yeah. So, but at the same time, I know that there are certain industries who have not been doing well. Say, for example, last couple of years, we've been hearing about automobile industry not really picking up. Yeah, although there are still certain brands who are doing well, who came and established themselves in the country and picked up the numbers. But I must say that I cannot simply sugarcoat and decline the fact that there's definitely some decline in business with some of these sectors. But that doesn't mean that people are not buying, or that does not mean that we cannot sell. Yeah, that's the point I was trying to make. So even under the lockdown situations, there will be opportunities. Okay, so now this is my favorite slide. You remember the first slide where I showed the sales guys out in the market. They're free to travel. We have a completely different scenario post COVID now. So rapidly dropping demand, because we just talked about this, that you won't see a surge in the projects. They're going to be limited set of projects, and where people, instead of putting up new plants, instead of buying new properties, say for example, real estate, people will not really be buying houses and take the liabilities unless it's really required for them to buy. Yeah. Similarly, in the industrial scenario, B2B typically, uh, there's going to be a drop in the large scale projects, but small consumption on equipments or any changes that they need to be doing on a routine basis will still continue, right? So the point I'm trying to make here is that you'll have limited set of projects, you will have a limited set of capex driven projects, but on the other side there will be certain sectors which are thriving sectors which I mentioned, like food, dairy, pharmaceutical, and how can I forget alcohol? Yeah, so in the recent times we heard that alcohol is really going to go up. Okay, so that was on a lighter side, but on a serious note, there are certain industries like the online education. I'm sure many of us, while we were sitting home, we were trying to really upgrade our knowledge on subjects, and online education has really become a buzz, right? So these are the industries which are really going to really go up. Okay, so coming back to this particular slide, so I did mention about the business is going to drop. We need to see how we change ourselves, we change our approach and reach out to clients to be able to get what's available in the market. We'll have a lot of restrictions on the mobility. People in the past used to really go out, meet clients. It was easy to really judge the position of your company, your brand, yourself in front of a customer. But you'll have a lot of limitations now. You won't be able to really see people one-on-one, have discussions, try and build your network within the customer premises. Those are the limitations where you'll have to really work around. You need to see the ways that suits the customer, rather than looking at that as a limitation. Yeah. And you'll see a lot of virtual sales, virtual selling happening. Yeah. So we also need to really upgrade ourselves, with this, for this transition to be selling online. Yeah. To be meeting people online and convincing them, making a point, showing the value and getting the business. So these are some of the points which I thought should be very, very important. In a scenario like this, while you have the limitations on mobility, you have to meet clients online. I think what's more important for all of us in sales is, uh, number one, reach out to people, connect with them, have a more direct connect. Yeah. Be more responsive, when it comes to attending to their queries, attending to their inquiries, or be responsive, more responsive in the current scenario. You need to be much faster, and you need to spending times with the customer. Yeah, to be able to really get into this transition of conventional selling to remote selling. Yeah. And I would also like to say, in the current scenario of COVID-19, with the limited opportunities that we will be having, I think we need to also make a shift in the business model. Yeah, typically, for example, let me just show you what I'm trying to say here. Uh, when you are in a B2B selling, I think what's more important here is that you need to be working around with your existing set of customers. I think that's going to be the low hanging fruit. Yeah. Instead of really getting to develop new customers or new customer acquisition, which is going to really take a hit, because the kind of conversations you can have with your existing set of clients, the kind of connection that you have with your existing clients, with the experience that they have with you. Of course, you need to be more responsive, give them better services, but you'll have a better chance of winning with the existing customers. And at the same time, I would like to make another point with the existing customers. I think.
Sumit, sorry to interrupt you in between. Can you slightly raise your voice? Few people are not able to hear you properly.
Okay, I'm sorry. Is it better now?
I think it is much better now. Sumit, are you there? I think he's checking his voice connection, so please bear for a minute. Sumit, you are not at all audible. I think you are on mute.
Yeah, so I'm really sorry. I think there was some technical glitch. The network got disconnected. Am I audible to all of you?
Yes, you are.
Perfect. I'm really sorry about this. Anyway, I think this is what is called technology and the limitations of being online. Anyway, I think I'm just trying to connect back with my slides so that, we could get back on the discussion. I hope the slide is visible and I'm audible clearly.
Yes, yes.
All right. So I was talking about while we are, talking about the being in the current scenario of COVID-19, I think it's very, very important to be hold around with the existing customers. And for salespeople, it's extremely important to see to make the most out of the available opportunities with existing customers. So which would mean to do the upselling and cross-selling rather than just looking at developing the new customers. Yeah. Now, let me just give you a quick understanding. This is about one of my favorite slide, which I've always been talking. You have almost about 20% of the time typically available with a sales guy who's in the field. Some of about 30% of the time goes in administration activities, like making the reports. And I know many of the sales guys hate reports. They just don't want to spend time in making the reports and sending the expense vouchers and things like that. But if you look at this, sales guys spend only 15% of time in solving the customer problem. They also try and spend about 10% of the time in prospecting, finding the new leads, and the active selling, which the sales guy spends with client. The time spent with client is just about 15%. And then you obviously have some non-value added time. Now, what will happen when you have a pandemic situation like COVID now? What's happening to this? As we know today, around the time is just about zero. Traveling time is zero. But as we go forward, I see there will be a possibility of getting to around 5%, not really beyond that, at least for a substantial amount of time. Now, what will happen in this case is your administrative activities are going to drop for a simple reasons: no traveling, no expense vouchers, reporting is going to be online, so not much of a time to be spent. You will eventually get more time to really hear customer problems, solve them. You'll spend more time in prospecting, and you get more time to be spending with your clients in doing active selling. No, I'm still holding on with this non-value added time. While you are all sitting home, working from home, you still have some non-value added. And let me just give a quick example. So you'll still have a lot of law non-value added activities also happening while you're still virtually managing work. Just on a lighter side, I thought. But on a serious note, while we are working virtually, we're working, having virtual meetings with the clients. It's very, very important to be able to reach out to customers externally. Yeah, have a clear communications on what needs to be done as far as cross-selling, upselling with your existing customer. Try and finding out big potential clients. Yeah, internally, yes, within the teams, try and have a good team bonding, talk to the different functions within the organization and align towards the overall organization goals. I think these will be the challenges as well as the opportunities for the sales organizations going forward. Now, this is very important. The 3-point approach which will lead to the transition to remote selling. The first one is protect the revenue. Now, very, very important. When I'm saying protecting revenue, we need not really restrict ourselves for bringing the customers in for business new, but we need to spend more time in retaining the existing customers. We talked a little bit about earlier as well. And we need to also keep looking outside, which are the thriving industries where we could make an business opportunities. Yeah, and then converting that into the business. Now, second point is adjust and optimize. This is very, very relevant because you'll have a lot of new roles. Different people have to work in a remote selling model. So we need to upgrade ourselves. We need to get to that mode of selling online. We need to get to that mode of connecting with people offline. Yeah, and bring a lot of engagement. Yeah, and those are the things. And then obviously looking at the targeted campaigns to be able to reach to the client, conveying the messages. A lot of people are coming out in a very, very nice ways, whether it's conducting webinars, seminars, and many such approaches are being taken by clients. So really appreciate the way things are changing, and we need to adapt ourselves to this changing requirements. So these are the three areas, in my opinion, where the sales organizations, the sales people need to really prepare as we are in the transition to remote selling. Yeah. So yes, the point for a sales guys is not to be restricted to getting a contract, getting a deal done, or an order. I think this is the time also for salespeople to change their approach. Yeah. When I'm saying changing the approach, let's not get restricted to just bringing an order into the organization. People need to be really involved, uh, right from getting an order to making sure that the order actually realizes into the sales, which is the result ultimate goal. Yeah. Remember my earlier comment, sales is the results, while as the selling is the process. So the selling needs to align also towards the realization of cash for the company. Very, very important, because you cannot simply get an order, be happy about it. You need to also be involved in making sure that that particular order gets converted. You are in fact doing the getting the revenue, the top line for the organization, and making sure that we do all the changes which are required in our approach to be able to sustain the business. Yeah. Now, I'm not getting too much into detail, but just for a quick understanding to some of my friends in this particular webinar who will be in the manufacturing B2B kind of an environment. So once we have an order coming into the organization operations start working towards building the material. You keep the processes on, you make the goods ready for customer, and finally it has to go out. So unless the sales happen, the invoicing happens, we are not going to really realize the cash. Yeah. Now, we, as a salespeople, getting an order is not the only role. I think the mindset shift needs to happen to be involved in the entire the value chain, and making sure that we are engaged with the customers in realizing this particular sales and making sure that the cash goes into the system. Yeah. Now, just to give the perspective, unless you are involved and making sure that you are involved in the cash cycle, you won't see the salaries going out to the people. You won't be able to see the payables happening in the company. So all in all, the sales guys need to change their approach in bringing themselves involved in the entire cash cycles, right from the disbursement, that's to the vendors, and understanding that there's a complete cash cycle through which the order has to go, and finally making sure the clients indeed take the products and you have the cash coming into the to your own operations. That's what I'm trying to say. And very, very important, while we are on the cash subject, people need to be clear that for any organization to run the business, you need the net working capital to run the day-to-day operations. And unless you have a direct control on the receivables from clients, we need to ensure that we are involved completely in getting the payments from the clients. Yeah, there's no delay. At the same time, whatever commitments customer give on taking the material, it indeed happens, and we are in a position to control the inventories in terms of the ready to use material, raw material, etc. And then in that process, we are also having a control on the money which we need to pay to the vendors. So that's the formula, and people need to get aligned to this particular concept of cash, how cash works in the organization, and sales guys need to really shift from just getting a contract to being involved into this. Now, I'll give you a quick this is a what one of the famous business executive in America had actually given this. He says, is what I'm doing or about to do getting us closer to our objective? Very, very powerful, uh, quote by Robert Townsend. He was an American business executive, and I don't know, many of the people would know that he is actually known for transforming the Avis company, which was a very small rental car company in the US, and turning that to a biggest car rental giant. And this company was really very profitable, cash rich company. I have many examples. Talk about Amazon, you talk about Facebook. These are the companies who work on the negative working capital. So all they do is they manage their cash in. and the entire organization works with that objective. So that was a reason for touching upon this particular sensitive topic about sales. So far we talked about how do we really get the cross selling, upselling from existing customers. We are in, we use all our resources to touch upon the customers, and we also look at whatever is available opportunity and turning that into business. These were the concepts which we talked. Now, quick, KRA and KPIs for typical sales guys. We always talk about what are the kind of leads generated, what's the win rate, how much of the conversions, and with the conversions, how much is the winning rate for the sales organization, and what is the typical order size. These are the some of the metrics which are being measured. And then we, of course, what's the overall sales cycle. And the research says 5% improvement in the number of leads. Yeah. Win rate and average order size, just a 5% improvement in any of these metrics combined with a 5% decrease in the sales cycle can give you an improvement in results by 21.8%. This is phenomenal. I mean, you can imagine if you work around any of these areas, things are pretty good. But in a COVID-like situation where I mentioned the leads are going to drop, yeah, you have typically the length of sales cycle is going to go up. So you have an adversity, yeah, where both of these are going to be really taking a toll. What is in our control is where we improve our winning chances, where we also improve our winning chances for the large value size business. So if you are able to really stick around these two parameters, I think we can still make a decent growth, if not a growth to the tune of about 22%. Yeah. Now, to be able to do so, when you have a large scale selling big value deals, or you have a transactional deals, the small value. Yeah. So this matrix tells you that, when the sales process, where the lead time for conversion is very, very large for the high value sales, the large contracts. So it's very important for the sales people to able to work on these particular cases, have a different approach, opportunity to coach the client, where you get involved much earlier, have an executive selling, where you're doing everything right. You are an elite sales guys to be able to judge the requirement and work around customer requirements and be there with the client all the time. And of course, we'll have to work in a virtual build room. That's the kind of situation we'll be. Yeah. So just a very important technique. Now we talked about we need to be really handling the big ticket size business. What is the technique? What many of the successful organizations are doing to be able to have success on those big ticket size business, because that's a turning point for any business. I've tried to I have realized that this is a fantastic tool where we call it a PPVVC model, where P stands for pain, power, V is vision, value, and control. Now, when we talk about the pain, it's basically the customer pain. If you are really scoring well in identifying the pain points of customers, and you score on a scale of 0 to 20. So basically, if you see, these are the 5 metrics. Each metrics will have a scoring of 20. On each metrics, you need to judge for a high ticket size business, the large value contracts. Are you really ticking off 20 on each of these parameters? And trust me, a successful sales leader, if he actually looks at some of these high value orders, high value contracts in a much detailed way, and works towards each of these areas and sees that we are ticking 20 on each of these metrics and get 100 out of 100, I think that business deal is yours. I can vouch on that, because this is a proven tool where you understand the pain of a customer. You need to understand that clearly. That's where you get 20. You need to know what the power of a customer, who are the people who will take the decisions. That's to judge the people where you can influence, meet them virtually, and get the decision done. You need to set the vision, how you differentiate yourselves when it's a competition. You are not going to really see the competition getting away. You will see the competition all the time. But how do you differentiate from competition with the value that you're going to show to the customer right from the inception of the project will make a difference. And finally, the value that you is quantifiable to the customer. Yeah. And then you have the control. Control is very, very important. Now, when we talk about the control, we talked about, going to move within that customer's premises. Yeah. So in my opinion, if any of the sales leader ticks on all these metrics 20 out of 20, the deal is done. I can definitely tell you that if you work around this, the deal is yours. Okay, so but remember, while you're talking about the big ticket size business, you need to be involved much in advance to understand the pain point. You can't simply have an inquiry and start getting reactive and then make a proposal that any competition does. So to be more proactive, because the business decisions at customer end starts much earlier. 50% of the purchasing decisions have already been done by client, especially in a COVID-like situation where he's very, very careful to choose the vendor, the partner to make an investment. Yeah. So you need to really understand the process much in advanced stage and then do the routine selling process. So that's the point which I wanted to make here. Okay. So we are back on this particular chart, but all I want to say is that let's use the scenario with the less traveling you have time to address some of the important aspects which I covered. And if you are able to really understand the pain points of customer, you give us better solution. You are able to judge which are the new sectors, thriving sectors, work around that. You work more closely with the customer. That's right from the inception of the project. I think you will have the success for sure. So this is the trend change for the sales organizations, sales people, yeah, going forward. Okay, so I'm back on my where I started off from circle of concern and circle of influence. So this particular quote is very, very nice, and I think it's very apt. You know, it says, "The God grant me this serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference." So I think all of us have gifted by God. We need to adapt to the change and understand the things that are definitely in our control and work around that. Yeah. So that's all I had. But let me just quickly summarize what we talked about: selling, sales, and selling. Uh, so we talked about the circle of influence, what's in our control. Remember that, you know, we have a lot of negativity, but remember that we need to be positive. We need to show right behaviors and take right actions, align ourselves to this new normal. Yeah. That's something very much in our control. We need to adapt to the new normal. As I said, let's bring out innovation and upgrade ourselves. I think the silver lining in this the pandemic is that we need to understand how we make the best out of uh, the innovation and upgrade ourselves to the new normal. Yeah. Let's be smart. You know, we need to be elite salespeople. We need to upsell and cross sell and bring value to customers, especially for our existing clients, because that's something which is pretty easy and we can do that. Yeah. So we talked about the customer retention, big ticket side business. I talked about the PPVC model. Remember, effective model, and many successful organizations across the diverse spectrum of industries have tried and tested this. It makes a lot of difference. You can definitely win. Being proactive. Yeah. So we talked about we need not really you know work when we have the business inquiry from clients. We need to be proactive. Let me tell you, you know, we need not be aggressive. Huh? Aggressive is a very loaded word. Yeah. So we need to be proactive. That's more important. We need to building strong connect and having in this situation. Yeah. We also talked about the business cycle. Let's not just restrict the sales and selling process to orders and contracts. Let's go beyond. Let's get involved and see that, you know, the customer indeed makes that revenue happen for the organization. We need to have the cash coming out from the customer, and at the end of it, our customers are happy in that process. And definitely we have freed up time. I already showed you that 20% of the time which typically sales guys would use on traveling is going to go away. Let's use that time effectively and upgrade ourselves, and definitely don't get demotivated and negative about COVID-19 situation. This definitely will end. Nobody has an answer when it is going to end, but I'm sure this will end. There are a lot of scientists, research going on around this COVID-19 pandemic. Definitely, this virus will not stay forever. It will go. So this will definitely end. So let's stay positive. Let's stay motivated. Let's do what we are supposed to do in the changing environment, the new normal, and adapt to this new normal. Yeah, and stay positive. Find a meaning and purpose in your work, because that's something which is in your control. If you are able to really find a meaning and purpose for your work, things will be fantastic. Trust me, guys. And remember, always, selling doesn't stop. We can continue to sell even during this crisis, and things are really happening. I can definitely tell you from my own experience that yes, there will be some turbulence, some business may not happen immediately, but we'll have to come over it, and people are buying. Yeah, we need to get to that uh, acceptance of the fact that people will continue to buy. Yeah, so we'll do our job of selling, and people will continue to keep their job of buying. So that's the kind of positive thing that we need to be really retaining in this situation. So yes, don't get burdened with the COVID-19 situations. We are all, but we need to come out of this and show our salesmanship and show success for ourselves, for our organizations. Yeah, that's all from my side. Take care of yourself and your families. And now I leave the next 15 minutes for Q&A. If there are any questions, I'm ready to take as long as I can answer. Thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you so much, Sumit, for this wonderful presentation. And I like that Spider-Man at the end.
Yeah,
So,
salesman, the salesman has to be Superman. Yeah, he needs to bring out value, and I believe that truly, because all the sales people do that day in, day out. I know there's a lot of anxiety. People are sitting home. That's what they don't like, but I'm sure they'll come out and be winners.
absolutely. So, I saw actually Mr. Rohan Vati joined our forum today. So, I just wanted to greet him. I did not want to interrupt the session in between. Are you still there, sir? Because now I cannot find you in the list. He attended this session and was there with us for a couple of time. So, I think he has left now.
Okay.
No worries. I thought that if he can also speak, few words, so that would be really motivating for many of us. Okay. So moving forward, so we have a question. He wants to directly speak to you and ask. I am unmuting him. Otherwise, we'll not do, because I think he has some separate set of questions. He is from logistics background, Mr. Ashwini Kumar. So I'm unmuting you. You can please ask your question, sir.
Hello, sir. Good evening.
Yeah. Good evening.
Good evening, sir. This is Ashwani Kumar from Mumbai.
Hi, Ashwani.
And yes, sir, I have seen your PPT. It was awesome. You have explained each and every sector and everything about the sales. It was super PPT, sir. And I have also completed my MBA from Pune itself. And now I'm
Okay.
working in a logistics and supply chain company. So, sir,
Okay.
my question is, sir, can you explain a little bit more about the future of logistics and supply chain? Actually, I am in sales, and now I just wanted to know how to make an impact on the manufacturers. We have to deal with the manufacturers and ask for the business. Now it is, for me, it is a tough timing. You can understand. So, and you now you have also explained the conventional selling to remote selling, but still, I'm not able to make an impact on the different customers. I have recently joined this company and almost 1 years of experience, but is still not able to make an space in the market. So
Okay, okay. So I think you have two questions, that I could understand. One was on the sector which you talked about,
yes, sir, yes, sir.
logistics.
Yes, sir, yes,
So
sir.
Ashwini, I must tell you, the logistics sector is going to really boom in India. I
Okay,
don't know about the rest of the countries, but for sure in India, there's a lot of consolidation which is happening in the warehousing and the logistics sector. So, in my opinion, you're actually in the right spot. Yeah. So, as far as the sector goes, but I do also appreciate the challenges that are there in this particular industry. While the consolidation is happening, there's a lot of drive on the challenges that has come alive for the people who are in this particular industry. But to be very honest with you, you will see a lot of growth in this particular sector. In fact, we as a company are also supporting the logistics and warehousing sector through the solutions that we are offering, and I see a lot of consolidation happening and a lot of business opportunities within this sector.
Okay.
Now, I don't know what particular challenges you would be seeing, but all I know is that there are going to be a lot of experimentations in this particular segment, because the new offerings, like what I understand from the people in this sector, is that there is a lot of consolidation in terms of bringing out different partners at one place, and people are looking at offering the solutions as a turnkey. So that's where the people who have their individual approach to the market may have de-sizing of the business, but there will be some top players who will emerge out and have all the solutions and offerings coming at one platform. That's the feel I have. Now, coming back to your second point of it, struggling, I don't know what is really coming in the way of achieving the success, because the people in this typically the sales people in this particular sector are really doing wonderful. Maybe it's a temporary phase for you guys, because uh, a lot of challenges on the COVID, but trust me, things will change. It's a matter of time. You need to really have experimentations on the new offerings. I come across with a lot of new services coming from the logistics, whether you talk about support to Amazon, Dunzo, and many other players, online players who are actually talking a lot of new approach, whether it's a touchless delivery and things like that. I think logistics will have to really reinvent and come out with some new experimentation offerings. That would really be the next thing for you to really look at. I'll give you a quick example. I understand that some of the passenger lift manufacturers, now they're talking about the voice command uh, automations. People are going all out, because you don't want people to be touching the touchpads on the lifts and use a voice command. And I think it's brilliant. The way experimentation is happening, it's also happening in the logistics. So just bear with it. I think you need to see whether you are at the right company, which is also looking at innovation and bringing some of these experimentation offerings.
Okay.
I'm sure you will make very well in this
Yes, yes, sir.
industry.
Thanks a lot, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Do we have any more questions, Shafali?
Yeah, so we have another question from Mr. Tanuj Virmani.
Okay.
He says, how to manage our time well for effective sales.
Oh, well, that's pretty interesting. As I said, maybe during the COVID times, it's difficult to say how to manage time, because I don't know, frankly, how to work from home. Even everyone, including me, we were all working from home. I don't know how effective is that, but I think we need to create a balance now. As I mentioned earlier, especially for selling, you do not have much of the time that you get to spend with the clients. Earlier in the conventional selling mode, a lot of time used to go on traveling, your non-value add activities and things like that. So effectively, you would spend just about 15% of your time with the client. Now, in a scenario like this, I think we'll get more time, and that's the way we need to really upgrade ourselves in the technologies and connect with the customers. I'm sure the new technologies, the automations that's available, and the way people are also adapting. It's not just that the suppliers like you and me who have to provide solutions to the customers are struggling. It's also the customers. Please understand, this pandemic is for all of us. It's all across the globe. It's not restricted to one geography or one type of people or one set of societies. It's all across. So the way you and me are struggling, the customer is also in the same boat. We need to understand and reach out to the customers and spend more time. I think that's the only way. Otherwise, managing the time is not going to be that difficult in the situation like this. It's pretty easy to connect with people. There are a lot of ways, a lot of platforms where you can reach out to people. You need to find where your customers are spending more time, whether, as I mentioned earlier, whether they are more on the social media. You can connect and reach out to people. A simple call or having virtual meetings and seminars. There are a lot of platforms in which you can still manage. Or it doesn't matter whether you're not able to really see your customers face to face. So managing time should not be much of a challenge, in my opinion. In fact, you get more time now to be able to spend with your clients. I hope I could answer that.
I think very well answered, and Tanuj also must be happy with the answer to know this. Any other questions, guys? You can quickly mention in the chat box and we'll take it up quickly. I don't see any question coming up, Sumit.
Okay, okay. So
So I think because the
yeah,
presentation and the, your talk was so explanatory that we hardly have a question.
I'm glad that it really created value for people, especially in these conditions. Spending 45 minutes and having some takeaway. That's something which I'm really glad about.
And actually, you have given them an energy capsule that the situation is going to be good and logistics industry is going to be good. So I feel these were the things which at least I was looking for, these kind of answers, and you have explained it very well, that I have to stay in touch with my people, with my clients, with my prospective clients, non-prospective clients, and definitely market is going to improve.
Yes, absolutely.
So I think this is for all of us. But before we log off for the day, because I can't see any other question. So Bharat Patel says that most of the questions are explained in PPT. Dr. Veera Lakshmi says, okay, so she has a question. Does management education is going to affect?
Well, I think the management education is something, it started off, when the lockdown started. And I think that was something where people tried to look at as an opportunity to really get the education out to the teams, upgrade the knowledge of the people. And that's where definitely it's going to make a lot of difference. I can tell you something from my own experience in my own organization. The people in different departments took this as an opportunity to come really forward to learn new things, upgrade their own skill sets, and lot many management developmental programs really happened during this time. And thanks to the technology and thanks to the online courses which are available, I think it's really going to be very, very important for companies to reinvent, bring in a lot of knowledge and try out things differently, because we got to really adapt to the new normal. And that's where the knowledge really helps. And I think most of the organizations tried doing that, and I'm pretty sure this will be a continuous process as we really tide through this situation of COVID-19.
And I think this is an eye opener situation for us. So we now we are prepared that we can work whatever conditions are given to us. Either it's virtual working or it's practically physical working from office. The work always goes on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you, as I mentioned earlier, not anyone was really prepared to handle this pandemic,
Right.
especially the way it started off. But I must really appreciate the way organizations have really made the changes. Just take an example of, companies like Cisco, Zoom, or for that matter, online courses like Udemy or Coursera. People started really coming forward and try to change their approach. People would offer you a free online course. At the same time, if you want a certificate, they would just charge you a minimum amount, and you showcase your certifications. So I think the way of doing business has also changed, and people have started adopting it. That's really a good thing.
Absolutely right. So I'm getting a lot of positive feedback in the chat box, and on your behalf, I'm accepting all the appreciations, which of course goes to you for the presentation, for the wonderful topics covered, the discussions, and a lot of people are saying thank you to you. So here I propose, without taking Sumit's permission, because I am seeing such a wonderful feedback at the chat box. In case Sumit allows, permits, in case the audience wants, we can next week we can keep a follow-up session, effective how to do effective sales while having some great tips. Basically, we can work out around a topic, but it would be how to do effective sales. So in case people are interested, you already have our mail IDs and everything, let us know so that we can discuss with Sumit on one-to-one. If he agrees, we can keep a follow-up session. So this is just a proposal, Sumit, which I have given. So it all depends in case the audience accepts our, they want to have a follow-up session with you. So we don't mind keeping another session.
Okay.
So we had good, audience today. Almost 60 to 65 people were listening live to you today. Thank you so much, Sumit. And before we log off, I would request people, whosoever can come on a video, because now it's a virtual world. So we should have memories, picture memories with us. So I'll take some screenshots in case any of us and many of us who all can come on a video. I'm just waiting for 1 more minute in case somebody wants to switch on their video mode, and then I'll take the screenshots.
Okay.
So Sumit, your brother Ashank Haku attended the session today, and he says special thanks to you for the super presentation.
Okay. Okay. Wonderful. See, you get connected to people whom you have not really been talking for a while, or you get by surprise, like this. So I'm glad.
So even I am very happy. This is a virtual world. So you and me are connected after almost 12, 13 years.
Yes.
So I'm really happy that, people who have not connected for last so many years, now they are connecting, they are getting, they are talking to everyone, they are e-meeting everyone. Otherwise, we just have in our mind, "Arey yaar, kabhi bhi baat kar lenge." We can always meet, we can always go. So this is
Yeah.
a wonderful platform. I think we should, keep continuing with this. So thank you so much, guys, for joining us today. Thank you so much, Sumit, for the wonderful session. And here I would like to take your leave now. Thank you so much,
Thank
and
you so
have a
much, everyone.
wonderful
Thanks
evening.
for having me for this session. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you so
Thanks.
much. Thank you.
Thanks.